You win.
You're metal, dude.
Dudes, deliberating. Delivering. Delivering.
Dogface.
Deliberating.
Dogface. I'm the dude.
One minute, dude.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fight!
There we go. And there we go. And here we are.
All right. You guys ready for the chicken jockey?
How'd you know what I was having for dinner?
When the chicken jockey appears, we lose our minds. We scream. We throw our popcorn buckets in the air. We completely trash the theater. We leave the biggest mess possible. And then we say, Jack Black did nothing wrong.
Oh, okay. I have no idea what you're talking about.
I have a lot of things to talk about. I don't expect you guys to have any idea what it means, but I will warn you it is significant.
Please do go into the significance and an actual description of the aforementioned chicken jockey.
All right, so we'd have to rewind the clock a little bit. This will be kind of an internet cultural analysis of the last longer than I care to admit. Do you guys remember the first time you heard of 4chan or the hacker known as Anonymous?
2000 and first time?
Yeah, the first time.
Oh, 7, 8 maybe.
Like Project Chanology, where they were wearing those Guy Fawkes masks and appearing in front of Scientology buildings.
That was like 2009, I think.
Yeah, around there. I'm not going to have the
Yeah.
dates perfectly correct, so this is kind of an imperfect timeline of events leading towards the springtime and Easter, and now we have a dead pope, we have a dead image board, and we have I don't know if Pete Hegseth is listening, but I think he's out of a job too.
He may be.
So the idea of online
the Pope is dead. The wicked Pope.
I was going to get into a little bit of Pilgrim's Progress and how that led to the theosophical ideas in The Wizard of Oz and the Yellow Brick Road. All within an hour, if I can complete my sermon of fire and brimstone on time, and to let you all know that you're going to hell.
Not with that mellow of a voice. You're not going to convince anyone of fire and brimstone.
You're all going to hell. Or maybe just going to die of the stratospheric aerosol injections on the flat Earth.
Sauce on that. Hell.
Like Red Bad says, if that's where all my friends are and all the good Christians are up in heaven, I will go ahead.
Sure.
Your selling point is not good.
Mm-hmm. So having an online discourse where you didn't have to log into an account and you could say whatever you wanted pseudo-anonymously. I'm not going to talk about operational security and how to truly post online anonymously. This is sort of the difference between what we might call clout chasing today, or the so-called influencers who have their name and their brand, and anything they'll do is to garner a following and an attention to themselves. So there's this ethos of everything I do, I post online under my name, my website, my brand, my TikTok channel, and I want to grow that, versus a group of deplorables who hid behind the anonymous username and posted shit takes and controversial opinions and rumors and maybe manifestos, maybe there was some illegal activity. I don't quite have all of the truth behind the matter.
I know everybody keeps asking me to write a book. I haven't even gotten around to a manifesto yet. Like
A manifesto is much shorter, but might require you to murder people, bomb a building in Oklahoma.
How many people do you think would be dumb enough to run their manifestos through like ChatGPT or Grok? Like, are we at that? Like, have we hit that much of peak stupidity?
I think that manifestos are dispensed on Discord servers where there are cat boys who groom other young children and show them transsexual bodies in nude form.
So what's a manifesto or two is what you're saying?
I'm saying a lot of stuff, and I'm just trying to put down some lines in the sand so we can kind of say this happened and then this happened, and because these two events happened, a third event happened, to explain kind of where we are today. And this
I need to say this while my wife's outside. I swear to God, she refuses to put pineapple on fucking pizza.
What?
She'll let that goddamn pineapple sit on that counter and go to rot.
That's a hot take. Would you mind posting that on Instagram's Meta has a Twitter clone called Threads, and if you post that on Threads as a hot take, you might be able to engage in online discourse. This is kind of where my head is at, where people want to talk about stuff online, and then people from Israel have computers that they post from, and they try to change the discourse. It's kind of cutting to the chase a little bit.
There's not that many people in Israel. I'm assuming that most of those people are paid.
Well, correct. And that kind of leads to...
Probably with U.S. taxpayer dollars.
Right. So I think it was last Tuesday, before the stream last Tuesday, I was reading about 4chan and it didn't really come up in our conversation last week, now that we've had a little bit more time to reflect on it. The fact that the image board, so for those who don't understand, we'd go outside in the real world, we go to a mall or a steak restaurant, and in the lobby or the foyer, there'd be a cork board, and people would use pins to pin business cards and banners and want ads and types of things. Kind of a real life Craigslist situation.
Yeah.
So there's like a message board where people would pin messages to a board. When the internet came along and things became digitized and the global village became the entire online world where everybody has a computer and now everybody has internet on the phone. So when phone posting became a thing, that's kind of when the normies took over and began participating in message board culture, and being really shocked to see that the tone of conversations tended to be maybe a little bit misogynistic. It tended to be a little bit of women hating, and it sort of had this tone of nothing is respected, everything is hated. So anything that could be made a joke was made a joke, which kind of shocked some people. And some of the humor that became the idea of memes kind of emerged out of this idea. We'd have image macros. It would be a silly image, and then people would put text to caption the image. Because 4chan is an image board, you would start a new post on the image board with an image. So this is very important. And then discussing the topic would sometimes be about what the image is, sometimes it would be about the text is, but people would post images as responses. So there would be a need for original art that would troll or upset people, and then they would post that to 4chan, and then later Hillary Clinton would call us all a basket of deplorables. What was the Star Wars quote? A den of scum and villainy or something.
Yes.
Nope, you haven't been to the house.
Yes.
So it is Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. It's been 1 week since my last confession, and I have not posted on 4chan since the board has been essentially infiltrated and the source code was leaked. And all of those people who volunteered their time to remove posts that they didn't agree with, these people called moderators and janitors, had their email addresses exposed, and a huge list of exposed emails for the accounts of the people that were the moderators and the janitors of this message board. They had all their information leaked. Very quickly, rumors began to spread that there was .gov, meaning government email addresses. So there was kind of this funny rumor claim made that 4chan moderators might have been government employees using government email addresses. I saw the list. I did not see any government emails on the list. There were a few users who were in academia using .edu email addresses to then log into the 4chan moderation section so that they would view the worst content. And now this is probably the part of the show where we talk about the initials for cheese pizza and what a cheese pizza might represent. This is the type of image that might be posted on a board that could get it shut down. So what is sort of the most illegal image that you could post on the internet that would cause something to be shut down? This is the type of image that, rumor has it, might have been posted by three-letter agency employees to flood message boards to then get them shut down because they didn't like the freedom of expression in which certain narratives might have been quickly shut down by facts and reason and observers. So in terms of controlling the narrative, in many ways, image boards such as 4chan may have been the place where actual truth may have been shared, but because that was such a valuable thing to normal people and such a dangerous thing to people who wanted to maintain their control over perception and optics of political situations, war scenarios, businesses, religious organizations like Scientology and others, Catholic Church, even this type of thing. So they would flood the boards with illegal images to then force the janitors to close the threads. There's this technique called forum sliding where someone might start a conversation about a lone shooter in a Walmart store in El Paso. Turns out to be eyewitness accounts saying they saw maybe 2 or 3 men dressed in black combat gear running around, and then the rest was made, and it turns out to be some guy with weak, limp arms and glasses and some facial deformity that hated Mexican people and drove, 10 hours across Texas to go to a Walmart store. And then one Pete Buttigieg, what's his
Hang
name?
on, in fairness,
Uh-huh.
You would be hard pressed to find Mexicans in Texas. You might have to go all the way across to El Paso before you come across an Area 1.
Sure.
So, yeah, so that does make sense.
Sure.
Just like the Buffalo shooter who drove,
Right.
multiple towns to go to a specific grocery store because there were no other black people on the way.
Sure. So I'm talking about a specific instance where the POL/POL, the poll board, the politics board of 4chan, and then also we'll talk about 8chan and a user who posted with a trip code with the letter Q also has an origin on these image boards. So after El Paso Walmart events where bullets magically shot them, bullets emerged quickly out of a barrel and maybe went into people's bodies, and maybe they rolled around in a pool of blood, and maybe this was a shooting, and maybe it was a lone killer shooter who posted a manifesto on, he posted it on a few different places, including 8chan, which was another image board which had ties to Q.
Mhm.
Stop me if you have any questions so far.
There's some really shady shit in the Philippines.
Sure.
Where was the Civil War?
Well, the Civil War occurred.
And am I
on
too
these image
old to be drafted now?
And if you're asking me how is this a debate, or what is the topic of debate in terms of 4chan, I guess I would frame it in terms of, has image board and anonymous culture been a net positive for the spread of information, or has it been a net positive, a net negative, because the tendency to live action role play and jokes and pranks and create a false narrative so that major news organizations like Fox News and others would report on events that were reported on 4chan, which maybe didn't actually happen. So there were some prank events that got reported as real.
Oh, for sure.
Posted on 4chan, this type of thing.
I think Dingo. I think 4 is Hongkongian for Jockey, and that's the Chan we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, people leave weird racist comments about him. He's Asian, but he's got magic karates, and he's funny. So,
I'm more familiar with the Chuck Norris figure.
Yeah, no, Tim Timoney's got it, and he was the one who said R.I.P. to /B, and B was, B was, it's still the Wild West.
Iken has cheeseburger.
The
Nan cat farting out rainbows and riding a Pop-Tart.
Mm-hmm.
So much of internet culture was first shared and then created and then remixed and then stolen from other artists and reappropriated, and now there's a reason why the Anti-Defamation League continues to exist. I don't know. Now that 4chan is shut down, I think the ADL would have to say, okay, guys, we did it. We did the best we could. The game is over. Let's move on to something else. So if there is a conspiracy theory to emerge out of the reason why the 4chan image board no longer exists, it's probably because whatever operation was used or whatever operation was launched out of it is probably done. They probably
short and simple of it is it's the Jews.
That's still a question mark.
It was more of a statement.
Okay. Okay. So anti-Semitism might be at the forefront of this conversation, and then now with whatever capital Z Zionism is, I'm seeing reports of, how do I say this politely and gently and obscurely? So when there was a event that happened that started with an H, where people were put on trains and put into
this is an anti-Zionist dog. Does anybody want this dog?
Aww.
Somebody take this dog. He's very sweet. He doesn't like small hats. I don't understand that part.
Sure. So we're talking a little bit about Holocaust denialism seems to have been at its peak maybe just a few days ago. But now I'm seeing, I don't know if this is an example of satire or irony or humor, but reports saying that whatever was going on the strip of land called Gaza, near Palestine, anyone that has died in that event has been misrepresented. So now the side that during the 1940s event in that area argued that some 6 million were killed in pizza ovens, and then people were arguing that maybe that number was not accurate.
You could not cook that many bagels in that time frame.
Okay, sure. So now that side that argued that the number had to be 6 million is now saying that, the Palestinians who are complaining that their death rates are seeming to be a little bit high. So those people
they're using bombs, not pizza ovens.
Okay, so I'm not comparing one Holocaust genocide Holodomor to another, but we could enter that deliberating debate format, and then people could argue whose life is greater than another life.
I don't think it's a question necessarily of whose life is greater than another's. I think it's fair to encourage accuracy in all of these situations.
Okay.
And I think there's more than enough evidence to support some exaggeration in the particular event that you were referring to back in the 1940s.
Okay.
The first casualty in every war is the truth.
Stephen,
have you been?
Have you been? I think if you were going to make judgments about such things, you should have at least been there.
Have you
Stephen,
been in those showers?
Experts. I deferred to the experts' expertise, which is what I've been encouraged to do by many people, including you 35 seconds ago, you pompous twat.
So again, let's go back to a debate that Balderson was on, and it seemed to be this debate seemed to return to the idea that now we are in an open air concentration, and the showers that a certain group of people had to go through are now open air, and the stratospheric aerosol injections are happening, and we're all suffering in an open air gas chamber in America in 2025. And I might have read that on 4chan, and that might be fake news, but the ADL has not responded for comment yet to fact check the report. So
they've been busy.
It's a little bit dark in my room because I'm looking for human skin lampshades.
I have not been a bagel in an oven. I am not.
Have you been a bagel in an oven?
So I don't know if any of the viewers have had a chance and the listeners have had a chance to go back to watch a certain debate on the topic of chemtrails and how there didn't seem to be a debate. Sarah, the Raging Tomato, moderated a debate between Benjamin Balderson, the Powdered Dusty, and two other science deniers who were really interested in science until the science Balderson wanted to talk about was not admissible in the court of public opinion to be debated.
And then after the fact asked for my legs. That was awesome.
Yes. So
I'm about to go after the show. I'm about to send him a link to that movie of Tom Cruise in it about Mena, Arkansas, where the CIA does this whole thing where they give maps to the dude and show him how to get around any detection and radar so he could smuggle shit into the United States, because the fuckers acted like that shit was crazy when I said that. Like, oh, where's the proof on that? There was a movie about it, motherfuckers. Starred Tom Cruise. A few people have seen it.
Was it Top Gun? Was it
No, it wasn't.
That's how out
I
the
think it was
open
Tropic Thunder.
A non-secret. The fucking dude, Barry Seal was a punchline in fucking various songs going on for like 30 years before the Tom Cruise movie came out. There was book after book after book about it, and yeah, it's just open secret.
Yeah, made a movie, starred Tom Cruise. It was fucking not a secret. When I said people know about it, they're like, "What do you mean? Like, what do you mean? Do you fucking?"
4chan did have a board where we could talk about movies and movie reviews. I guess I brought up the idea of the chicken jockey and Minecraft because the final post on 4chan may have been a picture of Jack Black from the Minecraft movie. And okay, so Minecraft is a computer role-playing game where people role-play as a guy named Steve who, in kind of a Lego-like world, can punch blocks of dirt and wood and things and build penises and structures. And there are villagers that have long noses that might be a little bit on the nose. There's
dick rockets into fake space.
Sure. Yep. And then
Perry was on it. She kissed a girl and she liked it.
You could play online with your friends. You could join voice chat servers and scream obscenities and go real wild. Now there was servers that were called player versus player, where the whole point of the server was to grief all the other players and destroy everything they created. So imagine a sandbox where you build a beautiful sandcastle and then another kid comes in and kicks over your sandcastle and then pulls out sand from their pocket using pocket sand to throw sand into your eyes, and then it just begins to tell you how fake and gay and retarded and just starts using all the slurs and just begins a verbal combat abuse against you. And you're like, well, why am I playing in this sandbox filled with hate? Well, the answer is because if everybody hates everything equally together, then they kind of love each other and they kind of have this affinity where everyone's getting along. And
it is funny that like you look at racists, like you could be racist on both sides. They'll get along better with each other than the non-racist people. Like, what the fuck's wrong with you, non-racist?
Sure. So
because they can share food, and food made with bigotry tastes better. We've gone over this.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So so this is the season of kind of the spring fever where people have had enough, the vice grip of control and economic recessions and money printer goes brrr, and people got all of their pandemic checks and they kept printing money, and now our money can't buy eggs because the eggs are bird flu pandemic. People are just upset about so many things. They go to the Minecraft movie. All of these ADHD, autistic. I heard that autism was going to be solved by September. Put a pin in that. We'll come back to it. That's the Make America Healthy Again initiative. So all of these boys who have been told that their hyperactivity, their energy, their enthusiasm, and their zest for life is anti-Semitic, it's hate-filled, it's too white, it's too privileged, whatever it is.
Well, that's because he's running around with that Rabbi Shmuley, so his message is getting very confused. Very confused. You can only have one of them small hats standing next to you, whispering at you. You know how it is. Like you're like 1, 2, 3, and then some asshole beside you is like 7, and you just say 7 for no reason.
Glows in the dark.
Yeah, that little cunt is standing there with the dildo in each hand, like.
Right.
Oh, hey, Ben, you know the dude who does the "If I Was Rabbi Shmuley" that song? He was on the show Monday.
Fucking nice.
For like 2.5 hours, just. Yeah,
that's who that guy was.
Rad. Foundering, it was rad, and he's down in Santa Cruz.
I can't believe that fucking Kennedy's hanging out with them. I mean, I would have never, I have no trust or love for Kennedy. I mean, he's just a dirtbag, and I never thought that he was anything else. But
RFK Jr.
But to be hanging out with somebody that fucking shitty. Like that dude is a fucking caricature. He's
Handler.
not even real. Like, and you're hanging out with this guy that's just like the fucking most crazy Jewy Jew of all Jews. Like, get the fuck out of here.
He's there to show you that there's, that your guy is being ran. He's not the guy running RFK Jr. by any stretch of the imagination. I imagine that's been like a generational, program that there's been many an individual in his life that would, nudge.
So, what is RFK's relation to the president whose head exploded while taking a tour of Texas?
Right, nephew.
Okay, so this nephew grew up in a climate of fear, paranoia, government conspiracy, where men in his life, family members, had been assassinated.
Yeah.
Who was the other guy that got assassinated?
Robert.
His cousin. Well, his dad.
Okay.
And then his cousin, John Jr. John F. Kennedy Jr.
All right.
There was another one, and then Ted was probably supposed to go there in Chappaquiddick.
Chapstick.
Right.
Is that so? Side note: are we going to have a debate on the efficacy of chapstick, and does the chapstick brand of whatever Vaseline cherry flavored stuff is, does it make your lips more chap to use it over time because you become reliant on it and your skin stops producing the sebum or the oils to
that's why you use emu oil.
Okay. I was going to talk about chicken jockey too. Do you guys
they used to say that about Carmex when I was a kid all the time.
Right.
Sure. So it might just be a conspiracy theory. It might be a good idea to remain a consumer and to continue to buy chapstick and Funko Pop dolls. Are they bobbleheads?
I probably wasn't going to buy either thing, but I guess
so. This is where we talk about the soy consumer, and the 4chan board began to use MS Paint to sketch out and to draw out crudely drawn faces and sort of reaction images. So if you have a post that you see and you want to react to it with another image, you might post an image of a person whose mouth is hanging open and they're pointing at something and they have stubble on their beard and they're a neck beard and they're an internet warrior using their keyboard to post what is actually factual and correct. And then you would respond with an image of a soy boy looking person to say, you're kind of a soy person and that's a soy opinion. And this was the online discourse that would occur on the 4chan board where certain people would be made fun of, mocked relentlessly, and this sort of bullying culture might lead to raids and doxing, the revealing of personal information, including name, address, social security number, phone number, everything that the internet hate machine could dig up on you because you were an opponent, which later became a tactic of the, can I say, libtards, the danger-haired colored people who didn't like other men saying that men are men and women are women and that there are, biological differences. But now if J.K. Rowling talks about male and female, man and woman, people will, cancel her books and movies and hate her to death for talking about a biological reality.
And she's like, I'm in syndication with this shit, so I don't really care. I'm gonna talk my shit. Go ahead and die mad.
That is
the
United Kingdom declaring in their government magistrate courts. I don't know how their system of not democracy works over there, but they signed some scroll and spilled some ink over it saying that it's true there is a man and there's a woman, and when they fall in love and go to a hotel room and assume the missionary position, new babies are made. I think is how that works. Sex education.
But only if they're approved by an Anglican bishop who's seated upon the cuck chair.
Okay, so that cuck chair that the Pope has to sit on has a hole in the bottom of it where other people have to feel around for testicles to determine that the Pope is a man. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's
Papal Arousal Committee.
Right. I don't. Is the world ready for a female black Pope?
Only if she's a trans furry. I think we should get the first black trans female furry Pope.
Okay.
And no, I think they're gonna go like Latin American brown.
Wasn't that our last Pope? Wasn't he from Argentina?
Yeah, but he was whiter than you, my dude.
Yeah, but he tortured lots of kids.
Yeah, he was that like high Spanish white, you know.
Sure. I had a whole PDF document here about why this Pope that died is going to hell.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly a statement on Pope Francis talking about, let's see, there's a call for resignation of Pope Francis due to crimes other than heresy involving the protection of sex offenders and religious superiors who themselves protected the offenders, and the cardinals that are named who were also reappointed to different parishes because they were problematic with the children.
Problematic. Rapey? You mean rapey?
It might have been. It might have just been a role play situation where they were playing doctor, and the priest was preparing the child for a physical examination before they could pray for healing or something. And I don't know. I wasn't there.
They were getting the demons out.
Catholic dogmas, scriptures could be rejected as false. I don't know if we want to get into a religious debate. I think Destiny and what's that other guy's name? Was he named after a volleyball? Was he...
got a new sign from Christy's parents.
What's that Tom Hanks movie where the guy is on an island and he plays with a volleyball? He puts his handprint on it.
I don't know.
Oh, you mean like the
volleyball that's going to
print?
The volleyball guy who's going to debate the blue-haired guy, Destiny, I think is the stripper name.
You mean Andy?
Oh,
Andy Wilson.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Not like Andy Griffith. Barney Fife. We're not in Mayberry anymore.
He does live out in the middle of nowhere.
Okay, so we're talking about conservative values here, folks. We're talking about conservative values and conserving those values that we want to conserve on the internet. And if the front page of the internet is not conservative, if it's a hate machine, if they're posting transsexual bodies for children to see, then we have a problem and we need to address it.
Yeah, when they say male feminists, what they mean is dudes that are too weak to get a piece. So then they just they try to whine and ingratiate themselves into like some kind of a mercy sex.
Is there a debate to be had with a male feminist on the Orthodox religion?
Sure, there's a debate to be had. It's going to be ugly. It's not going to go anywhere for sure. Like just last night, I think there was on Tomatoes channel. There was a debate about gender roles in today's society, and it was two dudes arguing against it. And the one dude fucking looked like he'd never gotten his dick touched ever, and still played little kids' video games and slept with a stuffy. And the other, You know, you're like, he's like, and this dude, he's like, if a woman won't help defend the house, I don't even want her. Like, you fucking bitch made cunt. What woman would want you?
The dudes that start out as simps in order to like ingratiate themselves for a little bit of pussy, and then once they're in a relationship, they turn into incels.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. That's where I want to do in the conversation in terms of 4chan discourse and online posting, and this idea that there's this type of person, usually a man, who has not had sex with a woman yet and might not have volunteered to not have sex. Involuntary.
Not too many of us do. That's not that often. It does happen, but it's not that often.
Right.
That's a severe outlier.
Sure. So in a situation where a man is surrounded by women and he voluntarily decides to not have sex with any of them, he is called a man. He's called
a monk.
Respectful feminist.
He's called a monk.
No, he's called an involuntary celibate.
He's called a Catholic man. Like,
no, he said when you do it on purpose. When he said you voluntarily or
voluntarily do it.
Yeah. I think that's a Chad. A Chad who volunteers to not have sex with women. He's the Chad of the group.
Well, no, he's volunteering to only have sex with one woman under specific conditions.
Yeah. He could be going out there and just crushing the puss, but instead he's
Okay, so these are memes that originated and were mostly posted on 4chan. The idea of some guy with a chiseled jaw who was doing
I'm in that second group
to form the jaw. He would lift weights and he would become the Chad, and the Chad would be in contradistinction to the incel, soy boy, soy jack, simp, beta orbiter type who, you know, drinks a lot of soy products, has developed a sort of chesticles where his body has taken the shape of this blob, and then will wear a fedora and tell men not to represent women's opinions, women's thoughts, politics, this type of thing. So the worst thing that we could do as men is to tell women to not to vote and to repeal their, what is it, the 19th Amendment?
That's absolutely not true. They definitely should not vote, and definitely that will make them happier.
That's a talking point. That's a hate crime to say that, maybe, according to some people.
Yeah, according to dudes like that dude that, and the funny thing is they're all Peter Pans, all them type of dudes. They're always Peter Pans. Like none of them have kids. None of them want to do any actual man responsibilities. They, the one thing I never heard yet brought up in the debate last night was husbandry in any way, shape, or form, and that is the primary thing that makes you a man. Like anything else is just a little boy if you aren't taking those kind of responsibilities. And like the one dude's like, oh, my wife should share it. She should protect the house. Like, why? So you can fucking cry in a corner and jack off to fucking Japanimation?
Into a house plant after a comedy show.
And then the other dude was a pink wearing gym bro that kept asking everybody to flex. You're like, Jesus, could you be any more fucking closet gay, bro?
Was he on?
Get the fuck out of here.
Was he on Miami Vice?
You know, him and Jay Dyer could probably have teamed up, and they could have done an even gayer remake of Miami Vice.
Sure.
It would have been like that ambiguously gay duo, fucking from Saturday Night Live crossed with Saturday.
It's more likely that the inspiration for wearing the neon colored pink and sort of retro 80s vibe was maybe from Grand Theft Auto's Vice City game, where you would play a criminal in a game of cops and robbers where you'd steal cars in a video
all that game. 80s bullshit came back around, Stranger Things and all that. It was permeated into the culture for like a decade. And
they never brought back the empty hammer pants, though.
Chicks started wearing those ridiculous fucking high-ass waisted fucking jeans
mom jeans.
They never looked good in the first place. Fucking
Okay.
Yeah, like there was a big and so that's also when people were starting to figure out the whole well, if we use pink and purple lighting in our background, it's soothing, and it's
Are you
one of
talking about
those
bisexual lighting?
yeah,
Okay.
and it's one of those
Color theory.
studio tricks that helps suck people into the programming and shit like that.
Okay. So if in the back of our video podcast we use a blue light and a red light and we blend the colors together so it's a purple light, that implies that it's bisexual lighting and we are male feminists. So our opinion is to be held in a higher regard than other people's. Is that the connotation?
If that's the interpretation you want to run with, I'm not sure if that's the explanation given, but I'm not advocating we switch. So
Okay.
Yeah, no, I was gonna keep to the dull earth tones. That's they show shit less.
It was so unfair of you in your debate where the science gentlemen wearing glasses that looked very similar to each other, they did begin to personally attack you by stating that you look like you used methamphetamines, you had maybe a discolored teeth, and you had poop all over you, and therefore anything that comes out of your mouth is invalidated.
Well, I mean, they look like they had little fucking douches on top of their head for when they 69, so that way they don't get butt blooded on each other. So, I mean, I don't know what the fuck to say about that.
Some kind of personal low blows were exchanged during that debate. It went to places I didn't think that.
Only their side got to do low blows, because then they cried like little bitches to Sarah anytime fucking they got poked fun at all. Like, oh, my crack!
Sure.
And that dude, oh my god, fucking Karen B was scrolling through Instagram or something, and there's a video of Craig fucking literally on air picking his nose and eating a booger. You're like, you nasty motherfucker. You just nasty dude. No self-control whatsoever, you gross little fuck. Did you really eat a booger on air? Fucking gross. The fuck is wrong with you, man?
If we get a high enough super chat, I think all
Who
three
eats boogers after they're like two anyway?
We will.
What adult is still eating
a high enough
boogers?
super chat, if we all get a high enough super chat to get a vacation to Hawaii, then yeah, we'll sell out and eat boogers on air. I mean, everyone has a price, right, to selling out.
I don't know if it's one trip to Hawaii is worth it to me
Trip to Epstein Island if
base
it's still open.
myself like that. I don't think so.
No, everybody don't need to think I'm a nasty bastard. I might be covered in fucking animal feces because I live on a farm, but I don't eat my own boogers, you nasty fuck.
Right, that's just plain gross.
Yeah, like that was a choice. You sat there, you literally stuck your finger up your own nose without any kind of Kleenex around it, like a nasty, dirty son of a bitch in the first place. And then rather than at least wiping it on your pants or something, which is gross, like that's what Kleenex are for. You know, they're pretty fucking readily available at any store. You fucking stuck it in your mouth. In your mouth. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Some people's children, man.
Like you were that little self-aware?
The flavor.
You did that on air in front of fucking hundreds of thousands of people probably have seen you because that shit's been passed around. Because you're obnoxious as fuck, so everybody wants to see that it's hilarious that you're also just nasty little kid. Booger eating little kid.
So if we're talking about sort of embarrassing, images, videos and things, I think the blue-haired guy who wants to debate that
guy's got no shame at all. You can't even shame that dude.
Sure. So he
Like
had,
there's literally a video going around to him fucking giving another dude a knobber from what I've heard. Like and when confronted about it, he's like, told you I did that kind of shit. Like I'm just degenerate. I'll fuck whoever. Like that dude, you can't even shame him. He's got none.
Is this a progressive way to live your life? I don't know.
Yes.
Okay. So in terms of having strange ideas and videos and things, have you guys heard the news of Kanye West? I don't know. He calls himself YE or Ye or something.
Oh, yeah. Is this the cousin thing?
The cousin thing. Yes. More than kissing your cousin, I guess. This is like kissing your cousin below the belt.
It's a special kind of hug that you give with your mouth.
So again, on Twitter, was this on X? If it's called X and people say X, but now it's XITTER, do we just call it shitter? Like the X sound is pronounced SH, so we just call it shitter, like shit posting.
What is he just saying? He was molested as a kid by his cousin?
No, he said he blew his cousin from the age of like 6 to 14.
He made the admission to his X account that he and his cousin would look at images of nude bodies, and then he would put his mouth around the genitalia of his cousin, and that was the entire tweet. And then he announced that he had written a song about it, and it was called Cousin, and people should go listen to a song called Cousin by advertising the song about an admission of homosexuality and incest.
Holy shit.
So that is now part of the pulp culture lexicon that we'll have to forever remember. And
the sacred cows are killing themselves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Holy fuck.
Yeah. So the internet may have been a mistake. Giving.
When I first heard this, I superimposed P. Diddy over Kanye, and admittedly, I can't keep these things straight real well. But I imposed them because I thought maybe that was him trying to be like, that's why he's having all the, crazy, grapey freaking sex parties and shit. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, that line of reasoning does check out. It's sort of the Russell Brand had sexual relationships with a lot of women, maybe not consensual, and now has been baptized and is a Christian, whereas Kanye West was saying things about swastikas and Jewish handlers and stuff. So now, because he's a gay black man since his teenage years, he's in a special certain category of protected class of citizen, I think, and maybe the struggle Olympics and the social justice warriors will have to have special rules in engaging with discourse about this person who
is this then just fucking a technical move? Did this actually happen, or was this something he did in order to nerf what they're going to be able to do to him?
It's sort of like flying a rainbow flag and then having some certain immunities, special privileges for flying a rainbow flag.
The dude says some super wild shit, and I would follow him, but he posts too much porn.
Does he? I haven't followed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've looked at his thing before, and it's about half porn, or at least when I looked. So I just can't
pictures
do
of
that.
his wife Sensori, who then left him after he and her snuck into some award ceremony, and she took off her trench coat and was wearing very little underneath it to an award show that they were not invited to.
I don't know. I don't give a fuck about any of this shit.
Popular culture is in the gutter. It's been in the gutter for quite a while.
If you and this is the problem, is too much of America built their entire world around pop culture. And if you did that, you're a dumb fuck anyways. You're pathetic. If your whole world is revolved around somebody else doing something, you are a version of a cuck. It's not the entire cuck You know, somebody else is living out your life and you're letting it happen and you're watching it and jacking off in a closet.
So pop stars, Funko Pop models of Marvel superheroes and drinking soy lattes and dyeing your hair blue and becoming a male feminist is not a great way to live a life. Is that what we're debating now? Is that kind of the topic we've arrived at? Is there someone who would defend that lifestyle and say, you know, America?
Yeah, the people living it. Destiny will fucking wholeheartedly defend that lifestyle as he's trying to sleep with fucking 12 different people out of his audience.
I thought you were going to say 12-year-olds, and I would say, well, allegedly, maybe.
I didn't know that was said about him, but
well, a lot of things.
I assume so. He seems to, while degenerate, it seems to be adult degenerate. I've not heard any such thing like that.
So rumors and speculations, you know, rumors and
That
speculations.
is my fucking sweater. You guys are so
Fake news. Fake news. If Q didn't post it, it isn't true. QAnon. What's the deal with QAnon in 2025?
Oh, they're making a comeback, from what I understand.
What do you understand about
Like
the
new
Q
drops and stuff like
Anon,
that, and new people into the fold.
Was this like a Watergate deep throat sort of whistleblower situation?
No, at this point, it just seems to be that the both the Democrats and the Republicans have joined the conspiracy world. Only Democrats, it's specifically Republican conspiracies, which is just politics, you know. But now they just have to annoy us also, and Republicans, it's, you know, and because it's been so easy to hate the liberals and Democrats for a very long time, the community got flooded with Republicans, and that's all they are. And they act like they're conspiracy theorists or truthers or anything like that. But no, you are just run-of-the-mill Republicans. That's all you are. And it's not done better things for us. It was better when it was just 12 nerds fucking listening to fucking late night radio that nobody else wanted to listen to.
I think Q is much more originated out of the U.S. Army PSYOP division. Not that doesn't have overlap with CIA, and not that CIA didn't eventually, you know, get a person or two in there. But the way that I understand it is that it was born entirely out of U.S. Army PSYOPs.
Yeah, every one of them is you don't get to be that kind of size without being ran by the government somehow. Like, freaking Brave New World has been here for a long time. 1984, whatever dystopian book you want to look at, 1984 is even more perfect, where the whole resistance is actually that team. And when you get inside the resistance, you find out that it was just a setup to find out who would join, and then you're gone. Like, this is part of why every single time that any little cell or whatever gets busted, it's always freaking 10 different letter agency people and then one retarded kid that they talked into it.
So you're talking about, you know, agents who glow in the dark and post on image boards and maybe lead you to Discord chats and things. And the QAnon thing, so let me back up a little bit to talk about, I mentioned this idea of kind of a live action role play, kind of a prank culture, and the it's happening sort of thing, where the groups of users would post on the politics board to say that such and such event was going to happen, and they had information about it. And then other people respond in the affirmative to say that they had information about an event that was going to happen. And they would, in this way, live action role play, pretend that this thing was a real event. And the joke or the prank was that normies wouldn't know what fact or reality was, and it might get reported on CNN or television news as a breaking story. So in this climate of fabricating reality, fake news stories, this type of thing, it might be that there are tunnels under a pizza store in Washington, D.C., and there are emails about it, and that there's children that are, whatever, think about the children. So these types of theories were often talked about on the image board. And then in that spirit of prank and jokes and hijinks, someone who was posting with the initial Q, so on the image board you would post with the username, most people would leave it blank in the submission box, so it would just say the user was anonymous. Other users would put in usernames if they wanted to be recognized for their username. So a user began to post questions kind of in a riddle, almost like an Alice in Wonderland sort of, what does this mean? What does that mean? They post information, bits, factoids, things in text, and it would sort of mean nothing, but maybe it meant everything. Maybe it was a mystery, maybe it was a conspiracy, maybe it was an alternate reality game puzzle that needed to be solved. So this person would post under the letter Q, and then people began to mock it. They really mocked it. They thought it was dumb. There's this idea that if you post under a username, you're dumb, so we're going to hate you and call you all sorts of names and try to drive you off of the board and not let you have any sort of control over the conversation. Grandmas and grandpas and aunts and uncles and people on Facebook began to see screenshots of Q posts on Facebook, not realizing anything about it. And then there began to be the sort of Nostradamus effect of it being prophetic and biblical and Christian and important and politically significant, not realizing that it was more than likely some sort of prank, meaning if you go to like a science fiction board, X-Files board, the X board, a lot of times there would be posts about an alien invasion, a UFO attack, this type of thing. And people would say, yeah, I saw it in the sky. They'd post pictures of hubcaps that they threw in the sky, and they'd take pictures of it and say, yeah, there's an alien invasion happening. And people would play along as if it was the real thing. So at some point in the political discourse, users would see these threads posted by QAnon, and they would begin to encourage it, and they would kind of in a funny tongue-in-cheek way begin to respond to it, do some Google searches, drag up some information and post to sort of confirm that whatever kind of prophetic insider information QAnon seemed to have. So these Q drops seem to reveal information like a whistleblower that was going to talk about the cabal being arrested, Hillary Clinton, Podesta, different politicians were going to go to jail for, liking cheese pizza and what was it, pistachio nut sauce or something. And then normies began to not understand the context and the source of the information and began to treat it as if it were true and real and valuable and important. And then they would begin to discuss it, and a whole sort of resistance infiltration kind of political movement built itself up around this identity of QAnon. They began to print T-shirts and sell QAnon merch and become fans of this anonymous superhero known as QAnon, not knowing who this anonymous entity was, thinking it was some sort of messianic Jesus figure that they would believe wholeheartedly in, that would save America if only they would vote for the correct candidates. Maybe a president would would be the one to choose, and maybe it was Steve Bannon, or maybe it was some sort of, push against the liberal agenda.
Anything that'll cause liberal tears. That's the scary part.
Right.
That seems to be the motivating factor at this point. So it's like cutting your nose off to spite your face with these people at this point.
So kind of at the same time as QAnon is posting, this is around the same time that some guy named Satoshi Nakamoto released a white paper, and Wizard Internet Money, what do you call that? Computer coins?
Computer coins.
Okay, so it's not real money, and QAnon is not a real person, but is whistleblowing, leaking information, kind of like a new version of WikiLeaks, except the information is these sort of factoid riddles that people would need to obsess over. So in this sort of news leak information way, where internet keyboard warriors would have to do their research to find a grand overarching conspiracy, they would do the work. And in doing the work, they would be involved in sort of a high-level intelligence operation where they would enlist themselves as agents and soldiers in the information war, not understanding where it would lead them. And if it did lead them to a January 6th meetup event in a government property, and if that was to be classified as an insurrection or not, I don't know if that's been declared insurrection or not by a president who might have pardoned people. It's sort of this morass of...
In no way did that meet the freaking requirements to be called an insurrection. That's
fucking retarded.
Thank you, Kanye. Sorry about your cousin. Congratulations on it.
Or yeah.
So it's all fake and gay, apparently, or not, unless it's true and real and factual. The thing I didn't mention was the HBO documentary by some guy who interviewed some father and son team who lived, I don't know, some Asian pig farm facility, in which they claimed to, so after 4chan sort of had this split from reality, they copied the code, put on their own server, and called it 8chan, and that's where the QAnon posts began to show up. So they might have started showing up on 4chan, the political board on 4chan, but that didn't last for very long, and then they migrated, and those people all left. It was like they left the land of Egypt, the Red Sea was parted, and they were led into the 8chan image boards, where they began to continue their research into QAnon information. And every time a QAnon post would drop, meaning post to the board, they would screenshot it and do all their own homework to figure out what seemingly unconnected dots would connect on their pin board behind them. So if you print out the image of Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell and Hillary Clinton, and then you connect them with push pins and red yarn, you'd figure out the connections between all these ideas, and then you'd see that there is a criminal cabal, deep state, and a swamp that would be drained if you voted for a certain politician. And if you showed up to the party at the White House on January 6th because Alex Jones was going to be there and give you an inspirational speech, then maybe you'd be called an insurrectionist and put into prison for 4 years. And that's how the internet hate machine known as the Hacker Anonymous, under the 4chan banner, infiltrated our reality for better or worse, leading towards a...
You used to show up in tanks. That's how you do an insurrection.
Like actual armed army?
You remember when fucking Alex Jones showed up in front of the freaking White House with a tank?
It was a Humvee.
No, it was a tank.
Was it an actual tank?
Yeah. During the Bush administration,
I
to
thought
protest the freaking Iraq war.
No, the new war is Palestine, and people on college campuses protesting it are evil and need to be silenced or something. I don't know. I don't know what the political climate is and the correct languages and the political correct terminology. What is the right side of history to be on? It's very difficult to know if these sands keep shifting so quickly, and our foundation of reality is difficult to determine. And Kanye's cousin is in prison, and it's just a weird situation we find ourselves in. Is there anything to debate about?
I don't even know what to say about most all that.
Return prayer to public schools and become a Christian nation again.
Ugh.
Because this pushback against liberalism is gone towards this traditional Catholic Christianity flavor of religiosity, which may be better or worse than.
Is the Catholic Church growing? I've seen the Orthodox Church growing substantially, but I didn't know that the Catholic Church was.
Well, that's sort of
when you are the biggest. When you're the biggest, it's hard.
Well, the trad cath wife meme is sort of what we were talking about in terms of finding.
I wouldn't have taken trad to Catholic.
Sure. So this sort of traditionalism and sort of
like growing up, the Catholic kids were the Catholic girls were the ones that were putting out for everybody. The Catholic dudes were the ones doing the hardest partying.
And that might be the joke that people don't understand in terms of choosing a wife. If you choose a Catholic schoolgirl wife, thinking she's going to be somehow pure and virginal and more appropriate and conservative and shy, and I don't know. The trad cath wife meme is sort of an anti-feminist.
Apparently, it's growing in Africa and Asia, but.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Is there a debate to be had on choosing a wife that's traditional and Catholic, and where's
I don't know why you keep adding Catholic into this.
Because
like
that is the meme. It's TRAD, trad, CATH, calf, traditionally Catholic, and that's sort of.
I've not seen that. I've not seen that calf part.
This is the live action role play that's happening online where men are pretending to be Catholic, saying Christ is king.
I've seen that.
So Christ is king are fighting words online where you say Christ is king, debate me atheists, checkmate atheists, this sort of divide between you're either in the Christ is king, trad, cath, conservative camp, or you're the liberal, atheist, danger hair, abortion is a human right for women, but not for the child, sort of political spectrum that people are forced into in online discourse. And those are the boundaries. And if you play outside the boundaries, you're going to be not allowed to participate anymore. This was kind of the idea of the censorship, where if you didn't have the traditional talking points that were allowed by the moderators and the janitors of the censorship machine of Twitter and social media, if you said the wrong thing, if you talked about the bonus hole and you showed the website where they talk about the definition of the bonus hole, you get your content removed for medical information.
I don't think we even necessarily defined it. We just talked about it and pulled up the article where the Surgeon General called it bonus hole, and they were like, yeah, that episode's too hot. You don't get to air that. Like,
yes. Yeah. So some of the debates or the discourse or the airing of dirty laundry, the talking about reality as we see it, for a time was punished, but now it seems to be weaponized. And that's kind of where we're at with Elon Musk taking over Twitter, calling it X the Everything app, saying we have free speech, and then people saying now that it's under the Elon Musk regime, there's more hate speech and anti-feminist rhetoric and hate speech, and the scum of the earth no longer have the containment board known as 4chan. So now the hateful, misogynistic, white supremacists, incel dudes, whatever you want to call them, have now spread to all the other social media platforms. And that's a terrible thing for the internet. So we have to censor them, which is kind of where maybe we are currently at or heading towards. Is always sort of the pendulum kind of swings back and forth, and the prediction to say where now the pushback is going to be asking for big daddy mommy government, big brother state to impose more restrictions on speech that is harmful.
Well, they're already doing that.
Right, but now there might be a celebration of that because people say mean things on the internet.
I mean, Musk said that, they said that they were doing more free speech, and then the first thing he does is deplatform a whole bunch of big accounts like Jake Shields and them, for speaking out against small hats. Like, that's it, so I would agree that there's probably more anti-feminist speech. I would state, though, that doesn't really have anything to do with Twitter in and of itself. I would state that since Trump's win, there's been an extreme rise in it. I would agree that I think that over the 4 years, and I think this was done on purpose, that all that speech was bottled up on purpose, where we had the fact checkers, we had everybody and their brother losing their account, and then all of a sudden all that got let back out, and I think that was very much on purpose.
So it's sort of the steam vents that get to be open and closed at will to determine where the heat will lead to burn victims.
Yeah, it's a pressure release valve that also, helps build an ever-growing digital information grid that has, more and more of that. Social credit gets implemented, will come back to bite a lot of people in the ass that are trying to get a decent job in their 15-minute city.
Sure. So if we rewind time and return to the Bitcoin debate that we hosted, and I brought up the uncomfortable fact that once Gavin Andreessen, his email was put on the Bitcoin webpage after the anonymous entity of Satoshi Nakamoto basically stopped responding to emails and didn't want to deal with the project anymore, Gavin Andreessen became the not anonymous public face of the Bitcoin project, was brought in to talk to InQtel and CIA and give a presentation on the technology of this digital, traceless, pseudo-anonymous cash value instrument. So I brought that point up to say, well, what do you have to say about this? And the gentleman I was debating sort of overlooked that. And then the next point I brought up was the scammer known as Richard Hart, the Dick Hart guy, who was known for spamming emails and scamming people through email scams. He began to take over a cryptocurrency coin called, I think it was Hex, H-E-X, which sounds like a negative thing. Like if you'd hex somebody, sounds like a negative thing. Taking over this shitcoin Hex project.
I think I fucking met this guy.
Dick Cheese Richard Hart?
Yes!
In the California
I think he was hanging out with Dave Weiss once.
It's likely that he would attend different conferences.
Yeah, he tried talking to me about this, and I looked at him and said, I'm not gay. Which is why I don't really remember it. It was but now that you said the Hex and all that, now that yeah. I'm positive I've met this guy before, and that he was at a conference, and Dave Weiss introduced me to him and tried to get me into this shit, and I just looked at the dude and said, I'm not gay.
It's quite possible. So those were the kind of the 2 points I brought up, and the opponent really didn't have an answer to that, those issues of the debate, to say that, cryptocurrency as a tool has some positive aspects, but when it was made apparent from the early days that the CIA and Intel and different intelligence corporations and entities and businesses were all going to sort of glom onto it immediately and take it over, sort of through infiltration, whether or not it was written, like the code itself was written and incubated by intelligence corporations or the Vatican or banks or something to that effect, to then be publicly tested, to then, once ready, be installed as a central bank digital currency. That was sort of where I was kind of heading in the debate, to say that this might be the Trojan horse, that some people might get rich in the short term and drive Lamborghinis around, but once the people that bought the Lamborghinis are dead and gone, the code that is the cryptocurrency, the immutable blockchain ledger of public debt and all sort of accounts of value that everybody would hold in sort of a government bank account, would be sort of a control grid mechanism that would lead to less freedom for everybody. That sort of talking point didn't get addressed in the debate at all, if I remember correctly. But the idea was live now, invest, the money will just increase in value, and it'll be good.
Oh!
Hold on to your bags of shekels, your digital.
Oh!
Yep. So there are no downsides to cryptocurrency, according to the debater, and nothing to be concerned about. It's all just good.
Steve, did you see Lee Chapman died?
Yeah, I did. That's unfortunate.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Moment of silence.
I mean, he wasn't in the best of health like 8 years ago.
Still, though, not that old.
No, sucks.
Hail Lee. I was just talking to him like 2 weeks ago.
Oh wow.
He raises dogs and he's an expert. And when Lickus started having the same prostate problems Tier was, and we don't have the money to fix Lickus, like, Bob, get the fuck out of my food bowl, you cunt. Yeah, so that's wild.
Yeah. What's a bummer? Very interesting, highly intelligent dude.
When Steve and I first started, he was in, there was a little group of us, and Lee Chapman was in it.
What did Lee like to talk about?
Same shit we all do. Same type of shit. Bob, leave my fucking food alone. Go away, Bob.
Cats are going crazy.
Oh, dude, the animals are just naughty today. The animals are just naughty today, across the board.
Today it's spring. They're naughty, it's spring.
The chicken jockey spawns and just makes everything.
Really, the best behaved one might be this puppy that isn't ours that I picked up off the road, literally.
All right.
That we don't want.
This is the season of animal adoption.
We've already got 5 dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Come here, Bubba. Come here, Bubbas. He was skin and bones when we picked him up. But he's that's a nice boy. Somebody should take him. He's a good boy.
So all the kittens that get placed in a burlap sack and dropped on the sides of country roads, and all the poor puppies that get abandoned.
Yeah, this guy had like 50 ticks on him, and he was literal bones sticking out. He got some
shelters.
He got some food in his belly and some wags in his tail now, and so now he's happy. He's a beautiful boy. He's a good boy.
Say, hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. Good buddy. That was the Venn diagram I was posting. Did you see that Venn diagram?
I did not.
Where you start a conversation with, hey, buddy.
Hey, Bubba. Hey, Bubba. Hey, Bubba.
Do you want me to pull it up?
Yeah, pull that up. Just this one again. I'll just.
Yeah, I'm a buddy. I'm somebody's buddy. I am somebody's buddy.
The hey, buddy Venn diagram.
Do we need to do the middle of the night? In the arms of an angel.
Sarah McLachlan.
See this poor abused dog. It was neglected for the price of like half of a Starbucks a day. You can keep this dog happy and give it a loving home.
And he will keep you happy in a loving home.
And he will chew on your fingers.
So this is an example of a soy jack. This guy here, his name might be Jack.
God, why does that look like Claude? Why is that Claude?
It's kind of it's a little bit blurry because he's not wearing his glasses. His oversized black rim glasses that let you know that he's a scientist. So he's pointing at this thing that he's noticed, which is that when people say, mostly men, aggressive white men might say, hey, buddy, and they might want to start a fight.
They might, yeah. That's true.
Or it might be someone trying to console a crying baby or a child. Or you might say, hey, buddy, while you're petting a dog. So in terms of starting a fight or a debate, if you say, hey, buddy, do you want to call your mommy? So you might be starting a fight with a child on the internet. Do you want me to call your mommy? But if you say, hey, buddy, while you're petting a dog and you're making shushing noises, it could also be that you're consoling a child on the internet. But if you say, hey, buddy, and you're starting a fight or you're petting a dog, it might be, do you want to go outside?
That is true.
Do you need to go outside?
Multifunctional.
Right. So it's the, hey, buddy, let's have a debate.
I went with Bubba. Christy don't like it at all.
No.
Brian called him Dickface McGillicuddy, and Christy preferred Dickface McGillicuddy to Bubba.
That's because she doesn't want you to get any unnecessary attachment, and you won't if the dog's name is Dickface McGillicuddy.
So if this is a spelling bee, the word is McGillicuddy. Use it in a sentence, and then the other gentleman has to spell it out.
The funny part about this is I thought Bubba was less of a name, and fuckface McGillicuddy. I was like, oh, you own him now? Like, that's you live here now?
Pet name of affection. It's like, hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. It's like a white supremacist talking down to somebody on the internet. It's like mansplaining. Did we get into the topic of mansplaining at all?
I'm not even sure that.
No.
Sure. Okay.
Is that even a thing anymore? Women are so fucking boss babe mouthy that is mansplaining even a complaint anymore, or was that like 20 years ago?
So it's this pendulum where mansplaining and the patriarchy, but then it would swing back to say now it's DEI hires and women in HR department who would trust all women and then fire men who were creepy, I guess, good working, hardworking men who made women in the office feel uncomfortable. We get fired because HR thought they were creepy, and then they'd have sensitivity training. And then it just turned into Zoom meetings every hour on the hour you'd work from home and you have to report into a Zoom meeting, and then you get nothing done, and you'd have to participate in ice-breaking activities and sensitivity training, and the idea of DEI hires, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And now that the Target store corporate has declared from on high that their DEI hiring spree has been halted, stalled, and reversed.
Nobody knows what we're talking about, Meg. Nobody knows.
We're deliberating deliberately on cultural topics of insignificance, and it's up to the listeners to decide if it makes any sense. And they will determine if the debate has been won or lost, and who won and who lost. And that's what the comment section is for.
Right. Well, like you said, it's it's especially interesting when you see that, because the comments in mine are obviously all pro mine. The comments in those guys is I haven't looked at Flo's, but I assume the comments in Flo's are all, powder dusty, or all positive toward him and negative toward the other two. And
the reaction to the debate that you had against two scientists who said that all chemtrails are actually contrails, and contrails are water vapor condensation from the metal engine body of the aeroplane in the sky,
which is quite an impressive claim, especially when I put up the counter information of during the pandemic, almost all commercial and private flights stopped, but chemtrails only dropped by 20%, which is the article that from MIT stating that they tried to similar numbers. No, 60% and 70 to 80%, or 20% and 70 to 80% is not close numbers. That's a giant discrepancy between chemtrails and flights. So if it was the commercial planes or the private planes or whatever planes making these, and it was a very normal thing, then we would expect that during this time when 70 to 80% of flights, private and commercial, got cut out, that we would have saw a severe 60 to 80% drop in chemtrailing. And, it's not going to be one for one, but it's going to be comparable, not off by fucking 50% or 60%.
And they were, I guess, the two Craigs, the scientists in the room, were saying that article that you mentioned was not proving your claim, but was proving their claim. So they were using facts and reason and numbers to argue that the statistics were only able to be
No, they were trying to pretend like the articles I was providing didn't really mean anything, and that not all planes make chemtrails. Yeah, I caught that. I'm aware. Or contrails or whatever. And I was like, I caught that. That's what you said. But somehow, basically, all the planes left are making all the contrails, and all the ones that aren't flying anymore apparently barely were doing it. That doesn't fucking ding a bell. Like, the odds of that are pretty weird.
So
why would that be?
As an observer to the debate, I wasn't a participant. I was observing it and reading the chats and just really focusing on what was being said. So it's sort of like you had your opening statement, you had your argument, you mentioned weather modification.
What did you think of my opening statement?
It was a good opening statement that was not engaged by the other side at all. So anything you said in the opening statement, the opposing party in the debate, both of those characters, refused to engage in anything that you're introducing into the topic, to say that it was not part of the debate prompt, and that they had prepared their argument to be specifically on chemtrails, and they were saying that you were opening this can of worms that was broadening the scope of the debate that they were not prepared to have. They were prepared, however, to bait you and goad you and lead you along a path to say, will you make this other claim? Will you make a third claim? Will you connect A to B to C to D to say that somehow we know you are somehow a flat earther, citation needed. You didn't put that claim out. We know that you are a science denier because you have alternative thoughts about information. So they were going to argue you based off of the character of your conspiracy theories and fake information. But when you brought up government, like C-SPAN hearings on weather modification, which talk about geoengineering through the use of chemtrails and cloud seeding, they said that that was not part of the debate. It does not cover chemtrails, and therefore they would not talk about it, which was very frustrating because there was sort of this read between the lines, nuanced argument that was happening that other folks coming into this blind were not getting the information. So the biggest frustration here was, the aerosol injections, the stratospheric aerosol injections. That would have been a great talking point to have, but they shut down that conversation before those three magic words were able to be uttered.
With severe interrupting. And that was all. It wasn't McToon. That was all Craig.
Correct.
Craig is horrifying about that.
If you can bring up my PowerPoint presentation, great. But you didn't have a PowerPoint presentation prepared and ready, and you didn't have
a PowerPoint presentation. He had a fucking meme with a fucking chemical formula on it, and then he stated that was fucking a contrail. It didn't have anything else on it, even like a government site or a chemistry lab or an analysis. It was just a fucking meme. And anybody could have made it.
And only this man of science could make it. And because he made it and showed it, it was the evidence that ended the debate. The complaint of the opposing side to say chemtrails are not real was that when the image of white cloud-like emission trails in the sky image was shown as proof of chemtrails existing, that was not sufficient evidence. So it was sort of this, we're not having an actual debate on the topic, but we're going back and forth about what can be said and not said about the topic. So nothing of value and substance could be discussed properly.
Well, because they didn't want to discuss the actual value of it. They wanted to make fun of me for being a conspiracy theorist. Correct. and make fun of Flow State for being a conspiracy theorist without actually putting out. And the fact is you guys are more conspiracy than we are by far. You already admitted that there's chemtrails, and then they tried making this very specific definition of chemtrail and then pinning us into that. Like, holy shit.
So their argument and whole strategy was to say that chemtrails are real with an apostrophe. Read the annotations and read the fine print.
Well, they stated that they had to come out of passenger planes. And I'm like, who fucking says that?
Well, sure, because the argument in the line of reasoning is to say they wanted you to admit, okay, so chemtrails are connected to passenger planes, which appear to the unobservant, eye that looks like a passenger commercial jetliner. And now I'm going to show you a picture of barrels of water in the plane, but those are for testing aerodynamics of planes. So then the argument follows that those are not chemical canisters. They are rather filled with water, which would represent the weight of human cargo, meaning passengers in the passenger plane, and that it's not chemical agents and canisters that are connected to aerosol injectors on the wings of the plane. I think that's kind of where they wanted to go in the argument, to say, here's a picture of the inside of an airplane with canisters of chemicals, and they would say, no, that's actually water, and it's not water spraying out, it's water that stays in to simulate the weight so that they could figure out the burn off rate of fuel hauling a certain weight of a full passenger airplane versus an empty plane.
Yeah, because they don't have better ballasts than that.
Okay. So then why is Florida talking about, not having weather modification over their state? What is the actual article from AccuWeather saying state lawmakers are looking to ban non-existent, in quotes, chemtrails?
Yeah, I know that.
I hear what you said. I was asking Christy to put the ducks up.
So there's an article from AccuWeather.com talking about the state lawmakers out of Florida talking about wanting to ban the non-existent chemtrails. And the side effects.
I heard that. I did hear that Florida was getting ready to.
So the topic is discussed by journalists. It's in the news. It's something.
There was another state too. It wasn't just Florida. Wasn't there one or two other states too? It was Montana and North Dakota maybe?
That would have been a great conversation to have had. But you guys were not able to freely explore ideas and evidence and connections and theories. So it was basically, you're saying chemtrails are real. We agree with you, but since we're the scientists in the room, we're going to tell you what the chemtrails are. The chemtrails are contrails, which is condensation, water vapor.
Well, then admitted that they do cloud seeding, but then also tried claiming that all of the trails we see are water. And I said, prove that.
But the cloud seeding, the geoengineering programs, the citizens are alerted to that. So the citizens are made aware in advance before the people are going to make it rain or not rain.
No. I mean, I'm sure it's on some site if you know where to look.
Right. But the debate tactic that they had was to lead you into this line of reasoning to say that chemtrails are chemicals. The chemicals are, barium, aluminum, whatever.
They wanted us to do the ball.
Those are
ball, and they're all ball worshippers, and they're trying to do this to the world and go off on some fucking.
Okay, so they're spraying poison in the atmosphere, which is causing the frogs to turn gay and the children to have autism.
Well, now see,
and you're a conspiracy
theory. I don't think those two things tie together. I've never heard that they're atmospherically spraying. What the fuck's the name of that fucking chemical? But I've heard that
aluminum.
No, that's not the one that turns the frog game. That's not the one that turns the frog.
It's like astrazine,
azatrine or azatrine. That's that one they say you find in the water supply.
Which is caused by, is that like chemicals from pesticides and herbicides and crops and things?
I don't know exactly what is azatrine.
What is the use of it, and how do the frogs turn gay from using industrial chemicals and farming? And
it's to prevent rejection of transplanted. What? That can't be right.
So again, because Alex Jones said it in a big, scary uncle voice, it's a conspiracy theory, and it's not something to be concerned about. And the Craigs of the world with their glasses and their science and reason wanted to let your audience know to not be afraid of conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories being fearful, not actual facts, fake news, fake science that doesn't actually happen, but people get really frightened of, and then they blame government. And then it's like they go to the White House and they bring guns and they kill politicians and they put their feet on people's desks, and that's really disrespectful to our government.
I keep trying to fucking pull up its uses, and it switches me anytime I ask what the uses are.
Mm-hmm.
I can find azatrine fucking like all kinds of articles about it.
Sure.
But then if I try to find its uses, you are just a fucking somebody put all the quarters in you tonight, dude. All the quarters. Did you drink too much coffee before the show?
I am all wound up. I had a whole box of Jewish crackers.
But when I try to find out what the use is for it, why would that even be in the water supply? And it even says it's heavier in the spring, and you know it's these But then when I try to find out what it's used for, it switches it to azathioprine, which is for transplanted kidneys. And obviously that's not it.
Sure.
They've even got a public health statement about atrazine.
Anyone in the chats know what we're talking about? Turning the frogs gay. What was the chemical? Was the conspiracy theory that the water was turning frogs gay, which was leading to transgender children?
It's used highest on field corn, sweet corn, sorghum, and sugar cane.
Atrazine, pesticide to prevent unwanted plant growth, invasive species plants growing in soybean fields and corn fields. Is that what that was?
Did it say soybeans? I don't recall soybeans.
See, Barbara spelled McGillicuddy for us.
Corn, sweet corn, sorghum, and sugar cane.
Okay.
Which most of the sugar growing in America isn't cane sugar. So that's mostly beet sugar. Like if you're getting...
Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy.
If you're getting sugar at a restaurant in your food and whatnot, that's almost entirely beet sugar out of sugar beets. Yeah.
So that was the announcement by Macho Man Alex Jones saying that the atrazine was disrupting the endocrine, chemically castrating and feminizing male amphibians. So the conspiracy theory was that it was leading towards the soy jack, feminized male breast tissue, feminized transsexual gay man sort of pride flag flyers. Is that what that was about?
See, and maybe the thing is right when that came out from Alex Jones, there was some other doctors that came out and were stating the same thing. They just got overshadowed by Alex Jones, like stating it. But apparently this is an actual concern, and I don't doubt it. But at the same time, I mean, half of America sits and scugs down freaking hoppy beer, and hops has more cytoestrogen in it than soy by freaking like 80 times.
Apparently, Gen Z or the youngsters turning 21 or 18 in certain states are not drinking a whole lot of alcohol.
They aren't drinking the craft beers and all that shit anymore.
There was a thing just the other day that not just nationwide, but like everywhere they polled all over the planet, the alcohol's at like all-time lows, alcohol consumptions. And you know, we were talking about different reasons why this might be possible in the group chat later. And it's like, dude, if you work, if your job is paying you $22.50 an hour and one martini is $25, like
that didn't stop us back in the 90s.
Well, it's significantly cheaper to drink.
I mean, yeah, the drink was only $7, but I was only making $7.
So if we pick our noses and we get super chats, then we have beer money.
Something like that.
Okay.
I can agree though that cost has got to be part of it, but I also have to wonder if it's not a bigger portion of it wouldn't be the opening up of the drug markets, where I think, you know, a lot of people, yeah, where so many people got pigeonholed into the only thing you can legally enjoy is alcohol, where now if you can, some people would rather smoke a joint, and maybe they would have drank alcohol before, but now that they have the freedom to smoke a joint, that's their option, or whatever.
So
I gotta wonder about that.
April 20th being.
Also, is it because people don't want to be out in bars anymore? Is it just at the bar? Because so I had heard that going clubbing and things like that. Like if you go there, it's all girls now, and it's just uncomfortable for any dude to go in there. It's just all boss chicks that just want nothing to do with talking to dudes. It's all bad. Dudes don't want nothing to go in with going into there. I just got to wonder if this is just because honestly, any social group activity seems to have died. And drinking for a lot of us was always a social group activity. I mean, how many people are like, I drink alone? You know, who the fuck does that?
Right. So going to a social event, a bar or a concert or something where other people are, and then not having conversations with them is sort of where it trended towards.
Alcohol was always a lubricant for talking to people for most people at the bar.
Right. To meet new people, to socialize. Yeah.
And do people
kind of broke people of that? And they, like Ben was saying, there was an availability of so many different drugs for just about everybody the entire time for lockdown.
Right.
And when people got out, they didn't really know how to fucking behave.
Well, that's the chicken jockey meme. That was the whole sort of the conversation with the Minecraft movie, where a lot of these young men are really interested with the idea of Minecraft servers, and there's a sort of a creative input. There's sort of an engineering kind of a male brain where they can create things and build worlds and code, and now they have this movie that represents their interests. So when they get their mother to bring them to the movie theater, they go there, and when they see this chicken jockey appear, so in the Minecraft server, if a chicken jockey character appears, it sort of becomes a fighting arena where it's like they can fight each other. So if there's an ability to allow you to do damage to another character to kill them when the chicken jockey appears, that means you could sort of riot, you could do violence, you could, it's like a bar brawl breaks out. So in the movie theater, in the scene, the meme, the programming is when the chicken jockey appears on the screen, people would stand up, they'd throw their popcorn in the air, let it fall to the floor, they'd throw their sodas at the movie theater, they'd make it'd be like a hotel room and rock stars destroying it. So this is sort of the aggression that they would take out in the movie theater, maybe starting fights with each other, being riotous and pent-up rage and tension.
Did this actually happen?
In multiple movie theaters to the
no
point
shit.
Where Jack Black, who plays the Minecraft character, recorded a new video that would play before the movie to say, when the chicken jockey appears, remain calm and stay seated and do not throw your popcorn on the floor, because movie theater employees were having to work overtime to deep clean all the movie theaters and the screens that were at the screening.
They don't do that. Don't lie, you motherfuckers. They are not staying in deep cleaning. I have yet to be in a movie theater.
There were pictures. The pictures were posted online
as you're walking across it.
Sticky floors in movie theaters, man. And these aren't the adult theaters either. These are the children theaters showing a children's movie, Minecraft, where these kids were raging, and they'd have to stop the movie, they'd turn the lights on, the ushers would have to go through and find the violence and take their picture and post on the bulletin board in the back room to say these people are banned from ever entering our movie theater.
There's cameras inside movie theaters?
How would you ban an outlaw in the Wild West Saloon? You'd have to take the picture, say this is a wanted person, or they're not allowed in the city limits. Have you ever been to a Walmart and you caused a distraction and you throw things out, you steal stuff, and then you get kicked out of the store and you're banned from the store?
I don't even know what you just said. The fucking this puppy got mouthy with the mama cat, and she is the meanest goddamn cat on the farm by far. That cat is a vicious killer. And that cat just turned around, whop! Just clocked him. He's hiding under my chair now.
That's all work, no play makes Jack a dull boy.
No, the cord's not long enough. Yeah, he's hiding back here, curled up in a ball. That cat just cracked him.
It's the
you're gonna get tough with her again. Now, what were you asking me about Walmart that I probably won't know because I don't ever go into Walmarts?
If you get banned from a premises for being a bad guy, for being,
my best friend in high school, John, got kicked out of the mall, banned from the Mall of America because he pissed in the parking lot.
Sure, that's an example of toxic masculine behavior that'll get you banned from public spaces.
Yeah, that was funny as fuck. I wasn't with him that time. That was crazy.
Sure. So if this has been a deliberation for close to 2 hours, and what is the point of all this? Then I guess the prompt would be, who is responsible for hyperactive, out of control children? Is it the parents or is it the movie theater employees?
Well, the easy answer is obviously parents. That's the easy answer. Parents are not raising their kids. But then the caveats to that are that the government has nerfed your ability to be a parent and decided that different ways that you can do things, and that they're going to judge that and enforce laws. So you can't just be a parent. You've got to do it in certain ways, including CPS is just crazy, and everybody knows that. And and then also the system that we've set in place where parents do so very little parenting. From the time a kid's 5, they practically, for all reality purposes, are spending more time under strangers' care than they are under their parents, by far and away. Like you can expect that they're at school for 8 hours a day. Well, it took them an hour to get to school, an hour to get home from school. They sat home for an extra hour waiting for their parents to finally get home from work. Their parents get home from work, 5:30, 6 o'clock or whatever. Well, bedtime's 8:30. Mm-hmm. That's for all practical purposes. You spent like an hour with that kid in the morning, getting him ready to go out, and then an hour or two in the evening, at best. Yeah. And that hour or the 2 in the evening, you're busted. You're tired. You're probably just sitting and watching TV, throwing some supper to the kid, and then getting them off to bed. They aren't raising their kids. And the big problem is this does somewhat get discussed, but it's only under the purview of masculine and feminine roles. And the fact is women were supposed to be home raising the family. They aren't home raising the family at all anymore. But one of the interesting things that I would state, and you do see some of the red pill community talk about how women are farming out their responsibilities, which is raising the children and things like that. What I have yet to see get brought up is that men farm out their responsibilities. That as a man, you're supposed to be fixing the cars, taking care of the yard work, doing all the different things that men do. And dudes pay somebody else to come in, and the plumber, the electrician, the mechanic, all these different things that you're paying for, you're farming out all your responsibilities, which is part of why it's turned into a hard thing where normally, like in my house, I don't do the dishes. I don't help cook. I don't help with clothes. I don't do any of that shit. I also go out and I'm outside most of the time doing other work that Christy either cannot or will not do. So there's a division of labor. Well, when the guys started farming out all their labor, now you need to do something else to pick up the slack. And if that's washing dishes, then that's washing dishes, I guess. So, I don't really hear any discussion about the fact that 80 years ago, if you had a leak in your roof, you went up and fixed it. You didn't call a roof guy. You didn't call a plumber guy. You didn't call anything like that. You just went out and did it yourself. And that men themselves have farmed out all of their tasks. Well, then it makes sense that women also have farmed out their tasks. That's what's going on. We've decided money represents everything for us. And if you have the money, you can completely skip all the parts of life that you don't want to live.
So in terms of children who are behaving with lots of energy and not having appropriate outlets to express themselves, how does that fall back on parents to ensure that their children, specifically in this case, like young boys, are having places to build sort of companionship, sportsmanship, athleticism?
Well, you got to get some women away from them. And this is another thing that's gotten ass backwards. Like, all the women raise all the boys, all the men. That's what's going on. And it's turned into some weird thing where all of a sudden taking care of the kids is a woman's thing. But once again, we've made it so you can't take your kids to work. You can't, like 100 years ago, when I went out to go do something, my son was going to be right there with me. That's how he was going to learn how to do it.
Right.
And that's how he was going to understand things. And you've taken all of those things away. And I understand that, some of that was like in the name of not having kids working in a coal mine. Yeah, that shit was crazy. But this shit's crazy too, and it's not working.
Sure.
And so with that said, even in fun ways, boys aren't allowed to be boys anymore. If you go get into a fist fight at school, the kid that's fighting back that didn't even start it might be the one that gets in more trouble just because he's willing to fight and stand up for himself. And that's apparently in this very feminized system. That's all wrong. Boys aren't given, they're made to sit in a chair for 8 hours a day. That's not what boys do. That's not how they learn. It's not what they do. It's a horrifying system. And I don't see, until we address those base problems, we can't get the results that we want. The none of the little things that we're doing, none of the counseling, none of that bullshit, none of the results we want are going to happen until we go back and make some very base changes.
Sure. So I guess what I was thinking in terms of like this argument of how to best raise a child, that when I was a kid, I'd come home from school and put on the cartoons, and the TV would kind of be the babysitter.
Latchkey kid age.
This idea of, put a kid in his bedroom, lock the door, give him a television, and he can just watch movies and TV, and that would be fine. Now it's sort of gone to computer in the bedroom to now it's, a smartphone, computer,
iPad, whatever. iPad. Yeah.
Right. So then that leads to young people finding image boards like 4chan far too young, and like Kanye West was talking about, being exposed to imagery far too young, and then trying out things with other people that is not age appropriate, while the parents aren't.
Apparently he didn't need that to try out things not age appropriate. He didn't have no internet, but he was blowing his cousin apparently at freaking
he was talking about all the dirty magazines and shit.
The dirty magazines. So we're talking about unfettered access to gore, pornography.
Man, that guy's old enough that he's older than us. That dude is older than us. It was so hard to find a dirty magazine back then, and they did not have, like, XXX. Hustler was the most dirty, and that wasn't XXX. That didn't have dudes blowing other dudes or chicks blowing dudes. It had, like, that kind of thing wasn't allowed. That dude's nuts. I mean, I'm not advocating porn at all. That shit's horrible. I agree, but that's an excuse, dude. You just wanted to blow your cousin. That's all that was. Weirdo.
It is a weird situation. So children not being raised under optimal conditions causing societal problems and sort of the fallout effect of single moms who are also stay-at-home moms, but maybe have to have a part-time job.
Marcus is just low-key picking on Chicago tonight.
I've never been. Well, no, I've been to Chicago. I went to the Rude restaurant.
Oh, Ed's?
Is that what it's called? Where the waiters just are very rude to you and they don't serve you and you still have to tip them?
Yeah. Yeah, Ed DeBevick's. Yeah.
It turns out you really can't be rude back to them. It doesn't work.
No, they don't appreciate that.
No, the table guests that I was sitting with were not appreciative of me being rude back to the waiter, the waitress at the Chicago restaurant.
Yeah. All dish, no take. It's not fair.
Right. I guess I didn't understand the social decorum of the situation. I wasn't properly prepared for it. I'm like, why are they being rude? That's the appeal of the restaurant. Okay, so do we get to be rude back to them? No, you're supposed to sit and just kind of take it. Take the punishment. Take the verbal abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you don't want spit in your food, it is usually wise. I was in the Army, and the biggest asshole on the base was almost always the cook. And that's because you didn't say nothing back to the cook. It just didn't matter because, yeah.
The water they gave me tastes like they took it out of the toilet, and I let them know that. They're like, well, that's fine. That's water. Why are we eating here again?
Right, we got a bucket outside.
Right, I mean, that's the type of behavior that you'd expect from this rude restaurant, and people would travel from around the world to go to this famous rude restaurant in Chicago. They have water that tastes like toilet water.
Well, that's because we just got it out of the sink.
Right, it's the public water. It's the same water they use in the toilet, so there's no difference. If you want to get more water, the toilet's over there, the sink's over there. It's like it's all the same water. What, you think you're special or something? Bring your own water next time. It's like, why are we eating at a rude restaurant? Or
it's fine.
Why are we going back to 4chan? Why do we continue to go to 4chan if all we see is gore and pornographic images and lemon parties and rectums and prolapsed anuses and
prolapsed anuses? Jesus Christ! Where the fuck did that come from?
It's the goat's image. So there's a lot of shock stuff that you remember Rick rolling people. Like you'd link them to so you'd say, okay, the information is out of this YouTube video, and the YouTube video would be Rick Astley singing "Never Gonna Give You Up." People would do the same thing, but it would be like, oh, it's at this website, and then they link to an image, and you click on it, and it would be, some guy bent over, stretching himself out, and you'd be like, I never saw that before. Oh, I was shocked and horrified. I'm going to send that to my friends now.
Right. It's the faces of death effect. Like, I have now been thoroughly traumatized. Everybody I know is also about to be traumatized.
Right. This is all under the umbrella of free speech and 4chan and the internet hate machine and hate speech and raids and leaking celebrity nudes and breaking OnlyFans and pirating content and all sort of the worst sort of possible behavior. And now you're a teenager and you're exposed to this, and it's like day and night. It's like having sex education class on your own.
I know my brother, for like when he was like 17, had this thing where he was like looking at all these like scat websites and everything was like poop stuff. And you're just like, what the fuck is your deal, man?
So in terms of a demoralization campaign, if that was the point of 4chan all along, to raise a generation of, unparented, unraised children, just expose them to the worst gore pictures of, suicide, death scenes and shock images, well then congratulations. 4chan. You've been a great success, and now that you are no longer online because the server code was poorly maintained, and somewhere in the history of this website and the server, it was sold off to different people, different corporations, different individuals try to purchase it and own the property. And then they ended with, the solution became, to be able to post in the forums, you would have to pay to buy an account. So you'd have to have a paid membership account to be able to post, which meant that it was a lot of government employees, Israeli information soldiers, Mossad agents, who knows where else they are. But it would be like government employees paying for passes to be able to post glow-in-the-dark images and then lead the conversation where they wanted it to go. And that's sort of where it went. It was cute cat images and Icon has cheeseburger and funny memes to shocking transsexual nude body images of people of questionable age posted to these forums where people were wanting to see anime pictures. They wanted to talk about anime and video games. And then they were exposed to QAnon drops, Deep State Cabal, Pizzagate stuff, Gamergate stuff, DEI, wokeness, and all these sort of cultural topics that sort of define a certain generation in terms of what their politics are, and being on the right side of history and having an answer to appropriateness on all of these topics and taking a stance. And then, of course, being a Zionist or defending Palestinians and Jewish hate and anti-Semitism, and Alex Jones telling you the frogs are gay, but go to the White House on January 6th.
I feel like saying Zionists, but not including Mormons who are trying to build their own Zion, is anti-Mormon.
Anti-Mormon. Yeah. I don't know if there was a whole lot of anti-Mormon sentiment on the boards. There was kind of this general consensus that they were against Scientology because they could troll them. So because they could troll and prank Scientologists, they could meet up in real life and do that. And once they started doing that in real life, I think a lot of the intelligence agents realized that the culture creation and the shepherding and herding and guiding and handling of a certain demographic could lead to real world political results. And it was easier to do that than to have like a Ku Klux Klan meeting.
You're not a ladies, man. Come on.
So that's kind of the legacy of 4chan, for better or worse. Probably left a lot of people for worse, broke their brains, created all sorts of conditions that didn't exist before. And whether parents and psychologists understand what their kids are looking at, I don't know. But I think the harm.
What if you fucking listen?
The harm has been done, and now the site is kind of offline, but the legacy and the culture lives on today.
Is 8chan still there?
8chan became 8kun, became cloned and branched off to different servers. So yes and no.
Whatever that meant.
So explaining the fact that people have an allegiance or an affinity towards a certain website, we'll call it 4chan. People would love 4chan or they hate 4chan.
You're just saying that it got too diffused.
In the timeline, it would split and fracture. They would divide and conquer, and they would the glowies, theys, put them in scare quotes, they, who they are, would then instigate fights and break up the people and further divide them into segregated cul-de-sacs of private Discord servers and strange places where they'd be isolated and groomed, and then, given guns and told to go to El Paso or shoot a president or go to a school with a weapon or a college, or, mass shootings. We had the conversation about how are mass shooters created or formed, or where do they come from, and who's to blame for that. And we talked about the antidepressants, the medications, the ideas that are given to young people, young men especially, the red pill community. There was a guy called Elliot Rogers who drove around and had a shooting spree, mostly young women, and he was called an incel shooter, who was kind of posting on 4chan. So all of the worst aspects of criminality of young people have somehow tried to have been tied back to 4chan, message boards, Discord servers, Reddit, online stuff.
And nobody presumes possibly that some other agent does that for them after the fact.
Well, now that it's kind of being discussed, the fact that intelligence agents, government actors, what is there's that whole organization of people that serve out of Israel where they sit at computers all day and they post stuff online, and they have sock puppet accounts and they post to all the social media accounts. This stuff is more well known and understood now, but in terms of then posting to forums and message boards and things, not understanding that 80% of the posters, 90% to 100% in the final days were probably agents.
Yeah.
Agent provocateurs who were, telling people to kill themselves, kill other people.
Of course, the Democrat Party can't figure out that the people that misbehaved in January 6th were mostly agent provocateurs. So they can't get that figured out either.
Sure. So if you get enough agent provocateurs, paid agents, then you might get one or two idiots who think they've found the club to join.
Yeah, they're a couple retards. Yeah.
Right. And then they're the ones who storm the White House, discharge bullets at presidents and politicians. And
well, they're still usually not the one that does it, is the worst part. It's still usually the agents, just like they found agents breaking windows and shit like that. They're the ones that are doing it, and then they just pin it on these other people. It's no different than the small hats who run around fucking painting swastikas and stuff on shit and then scream about fucking, oh, look at all this anti-Semitic stuff.
Sure. Yeah, so what you stated as a fact would be considered conspiracy theory on Wikipedia, and Wikipedia is the final answer for our consensus reality. Because Wikipedia states that chemtrails are, in fact, contrails, the debate is over.
Yeah.
Stop thinking for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, those two were definitely retarded.
Believers in Wikipedia and science. Are you prepared to have the conversation about 5G being the safest, best technology for humanity?
I'm prepared to have the conversation where they claim that actually broadens the range of it by jacking up the intensity, because that doesn't work in any other fucking way.
Sure.
That's called science, dummies. Just because you read it on a fucking thing that says that that's what's going to happen, in every way, as soon as you increase the power in any type of a field like that, it narrows the field. There's a higher intensity inside the field, but it's narrower. It's the way it works. When you freaking put the intensity to the laser, it focuses down. When you do it to a magnet, the field shrinks down.
I don't presume to understand the inner workings of the mind of the glasses wearing science debunker guy.
Don't forget the having the fucking super gay frohawk.
The frohawk, whatever it was. I think
or frohawk, or what is it called? Frohawk, faghawk.
All of those things. Peacock hawk.
Yeah.
Peacocking. Yeah. So I think the argument would go something like this. 5G is safe because you want to claim that 5G cell phone towers that went up during 2019 and 2020 caused COVID makes you a conspiracy theory. That's not how science and health works. Therefore, 5G has no harm caused to anybody.
At least I've actually seen this theory that they're talking about. The one where they tried to go on about how chemtrails all come out of passenger planes. I've never heard anybody say that, ever.
Sure. So is there a debate to be had about 5G towers not causing COVID or causing COVID? Is that even the debate to be had? But the debate that...
It'd be an impossible debate to prove.
Right.
Like, I mean, there's correlations, but correlation doesn't always equal cause. Let's get your fucking ass out of there.
Nice try.
Correlation does not always equal causation. You know, so it's a interesting, and I've seen out there where they've put out that different technologies have trended with different sick illnesses like polio or something like that.
Radio waves causing Spanish flu.
Do I know that that's
electromagnetic frequencies in the air?
Yeah. Do I know that there's any truth to those? I have not specifically looked up when any of these historical pandemics and when technology was released in equivalent. Just because somebody made up a meme of it doesn't make that real at all. I don't disagree that shit can be harmful. We had we incubated chickens out, and when we had left the incubator next to the Wi-Fi, out of 50 eggs, 47 of them came up fucked up, and then we repeated it and got the same results. So without a doubt, that frequency's doing some kind of damage. I'm sure it's raising cancer risks and things like that, but also it's the canary in the coal mine type thing, where I'm sure that we're a fairly large, complex, being. It's going to affect something more simple way worse.
So I don't know if you want to enter into a debate and saying the opposition that 5G is not safe. If he says 5G is the safest, greatest technology mankind has ever had, and then you have to take the opposite position to say 5G is harmful, and then he wins the debate because he wants you to say that because the Earth is flat, the 5G towers work a certain way, and the chemtrails in the sky with the aluminum cause the frogs to become gay and the children to become transsexual, autistic.
He wants to argue against one of the crazy ones, because certainly in the conspiracy world, there's ones that listen to Sam Tripoli sometime. He will mishmash three different things together and spit out a confused version of all of it at once. And that's what they want, is that.
The shock value of the edutainment content to say, have you heard this new conspiracy theory of strange black science operations out of the government that we can't talk about?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they want us to go unhinged with things we can't prove, rather than, the thing is most of these conspiracy theories, there are truths in them. Sure, there's theories that people throw out that are completely wild, 100%. But at the end of the day, there's always truths ingrained into all of it. And if I'm like us, I hate heat time.
Legacy of truth.
All the girls are in heat this week. All the girls.
That's the spring favor. Take them to see the Minecraft movie. Let them throw a bucket of popcorn in the air, and they'll leave the theater a changed child.
Yeah, the chicken jockey must be hanging out all over the place in here today.
Player versus player, where they can just attack each other, hump each other, abuse each other. It's allowed when the chicken jockey appears.
Yeah. What is the chicken jockey?
So on a Minecraft server where you're working together.
But I mean, like visually, if I was to see it, what is it? Is it a guy riding a chicken wearing a jockey outfit? I mean, what is this? What is a chicken jockey?
Yeah, it's what you think. It's a little character on a chicken riding around.
Wearing like a jockey outfit, like the horse dudes with the little
riding it like a horse, maybe more like a chocobo if you're into Final Fantasy. Sort of like an emu, like you're riding kind of this bird.
So if I'm walking along outside and I see some dude fucking jockeying along a chicken, then I know that shit's about to hit the fan.
It's going to turn into a PvP server, player versus player. People are going to smash windows. They're going to act like George Floyd has been unable to breathe. And
so what is this, like a purge type thing? What is this? What is the point?
That's what it feels like. We're talking about this pressure valve where all winter long children have been locked into their bedrooms, given a computer to play Minecraft, and then when they finally get to go outside and see a movie with their friends, they let out all the energy they have from drinking all the Monster drinks and the coffees and the sugars, and they have all this energy, pent-up emotion and anger and hatred and confusion and puberty, meaning hormones. And they can't, have a nice date with a nice trad Catholic schoolgirl because they're incels.
We're back to the trad Catholic chicks.
It's back to not spending money to buy beer, not having a college diploma.
You know what, kids?
That leads to a job, that leads to a
raise
career.
Farm animals. You will never have money for beer.
That's the obsession of the recession and the doomer not having a future. So these young people are told that they don't have a future, that the government is going to cause World War III, apocalypse, revelations is happening, the rapture of the church, the Pope is dead, Christianity is real, the Bible's real, end times are real, we're living in Satan's little season where he controls the world, and the chicken jockey, who might be Satan, might be tempting people to trash a movie theater. And that's sort of the microcosm representation of society where people just have no respect for property, for the land they live on. They just trash it. The cities are just homeless and junk covered, and nothing is beautiful anymore. No one's taking pride in anything, and they just want to burn it all down.
Yeah, like Christy Crinkle says, get a trade, kids. Learn to do something. It's good for you. Horrible. Well, with that, I suppose that's enough cheer for everybody for tonight. Fuck.
If Steve's still with us. Feeding Gomez.
Just got back.
So I don't know if we said hey buddy enough to start any fights with anybody to have a guest to debate next week.
I will shoot Jim Bob a message and see where Chase stands on getting himself wounded.
Say Christ is King. He is risen. Happy Easter.
See if we can get Christian brother fights. And I shot Sarah Tomato an email, and she said she's gonna try and hook up with some people that debate. That would debate against some of the things I do. And
sure. So it's okay if we go on other platforms to debate on other streams and then come back on Tuesday nights to talk about how it went or didn't go.
100%. 100%. That's the way about half of this is going to go. Not all the debates are going to be on our channel. And so, and we're not a big channel yet, not even barely a small channel. Fucking barely a channel.
So I guess our goal is to have a Wikipedia article about our insignificant podcast program.
Yeah.
Didn't change any hearts or minds and was filled with conspiracy theories that led people astray and told them lies and made them be afraid of planes aren't real. But they're drones and they spray chemicals that are an open air.
It's all sky spooge.
Holocaust.
It's all sky spooge.
So if we're not all dead by next Tuesday,
We will see you guys